Hey, everybody. I'm so excited that you're here. I'm Rachel Archelaus, and I created this event for us. This isn't just going to be me talking at you, telling you what you should do. This is a dialogue because all change really starts with some introspection. It starts with you feeling like there's maybe something off. Maybe you want to do more with yourself. Maybe you're a little bored. Maybe there's parts of your life that aren't really working or you think could be better. And the next four hangouts are going to be about how to take that information, how to take that little bit of inner knowledge of something is a little bit off, and what to do with it, how to shape it into something that's useful, how to put that together for yourself and get answers about what could be the next step for you. And I hope to do that with you through intuitive drawing, through some Q&A, through some examples that I can share with you from my clients and my own life. And by the end of this discussion series, you're going to know what to do to take the next step for yourself in your work. Even before the end, you will have information about how to make your work feel more fulfilling, more like you. And the byproduct of all of this alignment work, which is really what it is honestly way more easier time having that abundant life that you want. It's all about freedom. It's all about, income in that sense. And so doing this stuff, I swear, and I talked about this on Soulfulpreneur Radio today with Megan, doing this alignment work really allows those floodgates to open so that you can get that freedom and abundance that you're looking for. So I am just so excited, and I see that there are a lot of you online. If you're on YouTube right now or Google Plus watching this, I want you to go over to intuitiveartacademy.com/career and just register there, because you'll be sent immediately the link to where everything is happening, to the chat room. So I just want to talk to you all. So I want you there. So go to intuitiveartacademy.com/career. This is a two-way street. It's a discussion series. So I want to hear from you. And if you're on that page right now, on the live page, then say hi. I want to know where you're from. I can read it. If I look down like this is what I'm doing. I'm reading your comments. And, this is exciting for me because I feel like all my life I've been preparing for the moment that I could have a really fulfilling career. I always knew that I wanted to work for myself. I always knew that I had so many different interests and passions, and there had to be a way for me to make a living doing that. And I had a really supportive upbringing where my dad told me every single day that I could be whatever I wanted to be. And I'll just tell you my story quickly to see if you can relate to it. I knew that, and I really felt that inside of me, but I just kept finding myself having what I wanted to do on the side, but yet still going to work every day. So I was in the office realm. I was an administrative assistant, secretary, whatever you want to call it, for a very long time. I started working when I was 16, and then I think I stopped working when I was about 29 or 30, and I'm 33 now. And so that's a long time. That's over a decade of supporting somebody else's dream. And even though I was super good at it, I was always a great employee. I was super smart. Like you guys know in that email I sent you, you get things, right? You're quick. You understand how the world works. You're really good at what you do. It's not hard for you to learn new things. You're super quick. You're like the most capable bunch. But because of that, sometimes we can get stuck in that approval mode. So I was really good at what I did. Therefore, I didn't ever get promoted because I was too good at what I did. It was enough to pay the bills for the most part, but I never had an extravagant adult life. I didn't even have health insurance until it was mandatory because I couldn't afford it where I worked. And it was satisfying in the sense that, I was good at it and I got praise for it, but it wasn't really fulfilling. In no way could I call it fulfilling unless, you count that feeling of having all of your to-do list checked off at the end of the day. That was a sense of satisfaction, but I don't think I'd call it fulfilling. So, long story short, I had some side businesses. I sold candles, I sold painted flower pots, I had my own website. Even when I got into the psychic realm of doing that work, it was very part-time. I did something called Psychic Saturdays, where 2 Saturdays a month, somebody and I would go and we would do walk-in readings. And I got a few clients off of that, but it never really amounted to more than 500 a month for the 7 or so years that I did that part-time. So what that created for me was that I was very busy. So all of those years of side businesses and working, what I would do is I would work, and all the extra money I had, I would put into my side business. So it was like supporting a really expensive hobby, even though I tried to call it a business. I didn't really make a lot ever before I really decided to go into business for real. And I don't regret any of that. I learned a lot. I think I had to grow into the person who could manage a business on her own, because it's definitely not always easy. But I'm sure you can relate, because when we are smart, we can tend to kind of take the easy road because it's easy. It's not a struggle being a normal person, right? But on today's discussion, we're really going to talk about that inner truth feeling. So we have that inner feeling, like we want more, like we're capable of more. And, right, we kind of want to decompartmentalize our lives. At least I did after a while. I never put that I was a medium on my resume. I never put that I did, art and that I showed in galleries. I never wrote down that I was intuitive or that I did coaching on the side. I don't even think I put my candle company or my small press. That's another thing I did. I published other people's books for a while. I never put any of that on my resume because I never took myself seriously enough to really count that as experience. And so you can see my mindset there. It was really just, I wasn't honoring myself, and I certainly wasn't taking myself seriously enough to put some full-time effort into it. So let me know if you can relate to that. I'd love to know. I see that you guys are introducing yourselves. Oh my gosh, somebody's here from Connecticut. Anna, hi. Yep, you got my sound email. And I'm from Connecticut as well. Hey, Misty. Hey, Ben. Hey, Kate. Austin, Texas. That's where a lot of my friends are. Actually, my assistant lives in Austin. She's at the Kerrville Folk Festival right now, getting ready for that because she works there too. Hi, Jess. Awesome to see you. So yeah, it's easy sometimes to kind of go along and play the role that we're good at playing, but that inner urge of like, now's your time, girl or man, that's often what will get us to these kinds of things. So like thinking about something bigger, thinking about if we could possibly live off of what we love to do. And that's really what I'm going to focus on. So I had my dad in my head my whole life saying you can be whatever you want. You might not have had that. So I hope to be that for you. And because it's so possible. Any kind of thoughts that you have really that you can't do that are just limiting beliefs that you are holding right now that you could very easily let go of. And the journey that you're taking for a reason. So judging yourself as wrong is not going to help either. There's nothing wrong with where you are. You're not doing anything wrong or bad. You're not stupid in any way. It's not like you should know more. No, where you are is absolutely perfect. And now you're just exercising this idea of what if things could be different. So it's very different. Judging yourself will keep you where you are. Having that little bit of curiosity and knowing that you're being called into a new area is really where you want to go with this. Awesome. So more people from Connecticut. Hey, I miss it out there sometimes. I miss the water, though it's like 100 degrees here today, which is also kind of cool. So, you heard my story a little bit, and I'll get back to that. But first, I really want to talk more about you and, who I'm really gearing this toward, because I don't really talk to everybody. I talk to a really specific slice of the population. And a lot of times you guys can downplay your real truth. So today's all about inner truth and spirit, putting that into your work and what that does. So your inner truth, a lot of you are very, very psychic and intuitive, and yet you're afraid to use that term. It's almost like if you use the term psychic or intuitive, then you're putting yourself up for display. You're allowing people to challenge you. You're kind of waiting for them to say, oh, well, then do a reading for me. That can be a little tricky. It's just really a matter of holding your own boundaries. I used to be afraid of that as well, but no one has ever said that to me. No one's ever done that. And even if they did, I would say, make an appointment. So you're very, very intuitive. A lot of you have amazing psychic gifts that you're either developing consciously or you've kind of put on the shelf. And that is a really important thing to acknowledge. Everything about you is there for a reason. And everything is important and valid and necessary for you to really live an authentic, spirited life. So if you are intuitive and you are psychic, own it and kind of like jiggle it into your body until you can really feel it and you're okay with it. It doesn't mean that you have to go shout that from the rooftops, but it does mean that you allow that part of you to be so natural that when you're answering questions or you're talking to new people, you're allowing that intuitive energy to flow just as you're allowing your blood to pump, right? So embodying that, making that just another part of you is important for living a really fulfilled life because it's part of you for a reason, right? And no matter what stories you tell yourself about it, that's really just the mind's way of keeping you safe. So if you're afraid of embracing that, it's only for a reason so that you don't, get your head chopped off because your mind thinks that it's the past. You embracing yourself will change that story in your mind, and you'll look back and you'll be like, oh my goodness, why was I so hesitant to embrace this? It's really just a story. And if you take the action to get over it, it will really open your life up. Because when you are embracing of yourself and all of your, various characteristics is, I guess, what being a psychic intuitive would be. It's almost like you're allowing more soul energy into your life. And the more you can be, the more soul energy you can allow into you, the more accepting of yourself you are. You are also opening more channels for abundance and opportunity into your life. So I started making way more per hour being an intuitive or a psychic than I had ever made at a job. So even though I was only doing the walk-in readings 2 days a week for a couple hours a day, so maybe 6 hours a month, I was making probably about $500 a month just from that. So it wasn't full-time then, but it was still a heck of a lot more money than I was making at my regular job. And that says something, right? So follow that path, follow the path of your own truth. And that really is where the abundance is, even if it doesn't make sense, even if you think that that's not right, or even if you're afraid of your own truth, it's really how it works. Does anybody have an example of that, or does anybody have a question? Feel free to type it in. And hi, Judy. So anybody watching this on the replay, I can still see the chat. So feel free to type stuff in as well, and I will review it and write back to you. So the other thing that you are is, I like to say that there are non-artist artists in my world. I tend to attract a lot of really visual people, and you attract what you are, right? So I attract a lot of intuitive, creative people, and a lot of people who would not call themselves artists, but really are. I believe everybody's an artist, and people always, I think, overestimate my art experience and prowess. I cannot draw a stick figure well. Like, I can't draw realism. I don't draw, beautiful scenes. I am strictly an abstract artist, and my family is very talented. My mother and my sister are very visually talented. My sister went to school for art and is just fabulous, but I somehow skipped that and I have the more expressive art gene. So you're only judging yourself if by calling yourself a non-artist artist, and I would really allow yourself to play more in that, because when you shut that down, just like when you shut down your intuition because you're afraid, if you shut down your creativity and your expression, it cuts off the amount of information and abundance and fulfillment and wealth that can come to you, right? So just imagine a pie chart. Okay, I'll draw it for you because I got my stuff here. So a lot of people are brought up to thinking that logic is the way to go. So we got logic. Everybody is super, super cool with filling in that logic part, right? You go to work, you tell people how logical and analytical and smart you are, and that's what'll get you the job. But you can only receive as much as you give, right? That makes sense. That's like a common physics thing. If you give out a certain amount, then you can receive a certain amount. And that's true for the universe and how you're embodying your energies. So you give out this much of the pie chart, you can receive this much of the pie chart. So normally, how fulfilled really are you from like a day job where you're only being logical? I wasn't very fulfilled. I was feeling just not so great. I definitely was not being intuitive and creative at work. But I know a lot of you also have this expressive, artistic side, right? Even if it's not something that you'd hang in a gallery, just, I did show for a little while, but it was not my career. And then you have this intuitive side. So what would happen to your energy, to your enthusiasm, to your magnetism if you were to then color in those pieces of the pie? How much more life would you have? How much more excitement would you have? And how many more opportunities would you have? Because you were firing on all cylinders. This is a lot more to receive than just this. And that's really how I've seen it in my career. Yes, so Misty was saying she likes that you can only receive what you give. Yeah, it makes sense. And we've all seen that from our own inner truth, right? Like when you're with a friend and they're holding back, right? Say you're upset, you've had a bad day or you were broken up with, and your other friend doesn't know what to do with you when you're crying. They don't know how to comfort you or support you. And they're afraid of your emotions. And you can feel they're shut down. That doesn't feel good, right? Like there is not a two-way conversation there. You're like your friend is stifled and you don't feel comforted. So you don't feel like you can just open up and let everything out. I've experienced that. I'm sure you have too, where one person is just like, I don't know what to do, stop crying. And then the other person is just really upset. It stops everything from flowing. There's no energy transmission. There's no giving and receiving. It just stops. But when you have two people who are in their truth, or when you're upset with someone who can receive and hold the space, and they can receive you even though you're upset, there is that beautiful connection of love going back and forth. And I know that doesn't have to do with business, but you can see that just embracing all of the pieces of the pie really does create that back and forth, that giving and receiving. And to get on an even higher level, because you know I love to do that, we are creating this world of ours. Our higher selves or God or whatever you believe in is outlining everything. It's creating this hologram that we live in. And that means that we have full permission to be ourselves, right? So if my higher self is creating all of this and I'm not being myself, what's the point, right? If I'm holding back in fear, I'm only afraid of myself. And so because you're here, because you want to talk about this stuff and you want to learn about your inner truth, you don't need to hold back in fear anymore. You can see that you might have limiting beliefs that are in your way right now, but you also know that it's very possible for you to overcome them just by releasing them, just by not needing them anymore, by becoming aware of them. So one thing that I knew we were going to do today is just do a little drawing. So before I do some more talking, what I would really love to do is just ask you guys, what is your inner truth? Because a lot of people don't know who they are, or if they do know who they are, it's still really fun to ask, what is my inner truth? And knowing that and seeing that in front of you directly from your higher self who's creating all of this is a really powerful statement. And so you can see what your pieces of the pie are. And then you'll know what to represent in the world. Like if you say you're me and I draw the fact that I'm intuitive, I'm a channel for spirit, I love being expressive, I love creating things, and I'm a healer. If that's what I am inside, that putting that on the outside of myself, as in my business, in what I do during the day, that is an alignment. That is putting your inner truth on the outside. So we'll get more into that part in a little bit, but that's kind of how this can help you. This can help you see what you're made of, what your pie pieces are, and then it's your job through your intuition to create that on the outside of your life. And you can see how having what's on the inside of you on the outside as well, what you're living in, how freaking awesome is that? That's like total fulfillment. It's like living in your own bubble. And yes, I do feel at the times that I live in my own bubble. So yeah, grab your stuff. I'll give you a minute to do that. My favorites are these Prismacolor new pastels, though they are a little messy, and some paper. So grab that and we'll do a little drawing. I love it that you guys are so chatty with me as well. Hi, Patty. Hi, Kate. Yes, yay, drawing. Hi, Parati. Love it. So keep it going. I love reading what you're writing. And if you want to type in a paragraph, I will certainly read it because this is really a two-way conversation. Okay. So got all your stuff. Just take a second. Take a deep breath. Get centered for a moment. And then just ask your higher self, okay, higher self, let me draw my inner truth, and then go for it. And then let me know when you're done in the chat, and I'll do it too. All right, so if you're done, let me know. I don't want to rush you, but I also want to say that if you look down and you see something that surprises you, that's okay. So I'll give you one more minute to draw your inner truth. Okay, so Karen's done. Yeah, so Anna had something interesting go on. So she picked up a lot of different things. She kept putting down, picking up, and then only 4 colors were on her drawing. That happens a lot. So just know that that's normal. It's really cool when it happens, though. I always find it to be like the perfect message, because you're using the colors in a different way each time you pick them up. All right, so we'll get going. Yeah, I know. There's a lot to be surprised at normally. Um, Basil also grabbed the same color a few times. Uh-huh, so did Karen. So yeah, it's super common. So I'll show you mine. Mine actually did surprise me a little bit, right? Because what I told you before is normally what I would expect to see, but it's a little different here, and I'll explain it to you so that you can have a context for decoding your drawing if you're new. Um, and so the base of it is really like a content, happy color. And that's really how I've pretty much always been. There's always that contentment there. I'm always pretty happy and grateful. Over that are these, it's blue. It's almost like a little swirl of blue. And blue is a healing color for me. And those swirls are normally what I would consider specific events. Like it could be a course I teach, it could be a vacation I take, it could be something, but it's a certain thing that happens in a certain moment in time. So they could be books that I write. There are things that I do that produce healing. So I'm an Aries. I love being in action. I love creating things. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Framing it is this deep green color. It looks like black, but it's actually very, very dark forest green. And that is like introspective creativity. So like when I'm going into myself and I'm creating a painting, normally I paint alone on the floor. It's a very inner process, and it's really one of my strengths that I feel. So having this be my inner truth makes a lot of sense. And it's kind of how I frame my life. I wait for inspiration from that place and then I create it. And also have pink. I know a lot of you had pink too. My pink means love. So it's so funny. It's like dotted on the outside, almost like in a fun way, like little love confetti. And that makes sense. I really try to love whatever it is that I do because I know from experience that that creates the best result. And it's also the most fun. So it makes sense that it's there. And yeah, that's all the colors I have. So I have love, healing. Oh, I have orange, contentment, introspective creativity, and then orange, which is my mental color, which is about thinking and strategizing. And since I fell in love with the business world and I worked in, as a secretary for so long, that makes sense too. It's funny how we can upgrade our skills as well. I'll talk about that in a second. But the orange, my love of thinking and planning and strategizing and putting things together, that is definitely showing up. And it's also in waves. So I'm not always like that. I like to plan and then take a break and plan and then take a break. So planning kind of takes me out of the moment, or at least I'm putting together future moments. So I don't like to live there, but I do like to set things up and then get back into the moment and watch them unfold. So that makes total sense for me. Again, it's not what I would have drawn for myself, but it makes sense that it's there. And the fact that it does so represent my outer life, I feel is a great accomplishment. So for you, how much does that drawing reflect your outer life? And I know I didn't give you much time to decode yours, but basically, if you want the most fulfillment and the most wealth in all of those senses, physical wealth, emotional wealth, monetary wealth, psychological wealth, spiritual wealth, having your inner truth be represented on the outside of you is really the best case scenario. That's really what you want, because then there's no resistance, right? You still grow, you still learn, you're still challenged, but it's by yourself and for yourself. Just think about how much energy you'd have if everything around you was like your kind of thing, like your kind of people are showing up. You get to do your art, you get to be intuitive, you don't have to censor yourself, and you get to be like that all the time. That's where life kind of kicks ass. So I'm sure that makes sense. I love it that you guys are having so much fun in the chat, and that you have such anomaly drawings just like I did. You can really learn so much about yourself through intuitive drawing. And you know, one thing that we're going to talk about a little bit more next time on the expression piece is that, like, say you're already working for yourself, but you're leaving out this creative part. When you add that in, your business will go to a whole nother level because you'll have included more of that pie chart. So, like, I'll tell you about my experience last year, which I mentioned on Soulfulpreneur this morning. Last year, I was really focused on the business aspect of my business, teaching business coaching, and I was so passionate about it, and it was great. I didn't feel like I was really leaving anything out. But on the months that I did do more artistic stuff, I made a lot more money. And it's so funny, like when I included intuitive drawings in my readings, I made a lot more money that month. When I did an intuitive drawing class, I made a lot more money. And I noticed also that people were mostly finding me who were artists who found me through searching for intuitive art. And it makes sense looking back, of course, and you're probably like, duh, Rachel, that's why we love you too. But I wasn't really connecting with the fact that being really authentic and really putting your whole self out there is really where the magic happens. So I'll just give you a second here and ask, like, are there parts of you that you maybe found in your drawing or that you already know of that you're leaving out? Just yes or no. Like, yes, I found parts of me that I'm leaving out of my outer world. I'd really love to see. And, this year, I feel like I didn't have a choice but to bring in more of my art and creativity into my business. It was like that inner knowing, that inner truth of, okay, now you have all of the business skills that you need. You went through that journey, and now it's really time to add in more of that creativity and art, because if you don't, you're going to be so out of alignment that really nothing is going to happen. So I know some of you have tried to start businesses in the past and have felt like it was a struggle the whole time. It's probably because you weren't really putting all of yourself into it. There was something you were too afraid to show to the world. There was something that you were too afraid to express. And I know, I've been there. I love it. Yeah, yes. That's really great to know, because it can take some real guts to go super authentic, because we see ourselves like we're old hat, right? You're probably like, yeah, so what if I'm intuitive? So what if I'm creative? Who cares? Nobody wants that. But don't forget, you are the creator of your own universe. Your higher self is creating this whole world. And so if you are what you are, you're a creative, intuitive spirit who probably wants their own business, who wants to work for themselves or at least part-time. Doing exactly what you are is the path to where you ultimately want to be. It's the path to freedom, to wealth, and satisfaction and fulfillment. You can't outsmart your higher self. You can't outmaneuver it. You can't outmarket it. You can't, no matter what you try, it's not going to work if it's not in alignment with you. And so many of you are resonating with this. I know, like, this is the reason. Sorry, I love sitting cross-legged. This is the reason why I started my soul-centered business bootcamp last year, because none of the marketing and business stuff that was working for these big time people, and I had paid so much money in coaching to learn how to create my business, none of that was working for me. Literally, if you know the story, I had paid a lot of more money than I paid for my car. Not the current car I have, but the car I had then. More money than I paid for my car to sign up with a psychic business coach who had $1 million a year business. I thought it was going to be perfect because she would understand me. She would get me. She could see who I was at soul level. That was one of her things. And I did exactly what she told me to do because she told me to trust her. But from the day I hired her to the day I fired her 9 months later, I had no customers, not even my repeat customers from before. So literally, the day I hired her, all my repeat people stopped calling. The day I fired her, the next day, somebody called. So this whole world is not based on the rules of marketing and the rules of business that everyone else will tell you it's based on. Yes, when you're in alignment, they can help. Yes, when you're in alignment, it can work like magic even, but it's not a set in stone rule that you need to learn. And yeah, you can't outsmart your higher self. Exactly. Your higher self is in charge here. And if you start to thinking like, you know, you have to learn the new tactics, you have to learn how to persuade people, you have to learn how to do all this other stuff. You can't be yourself and make money. You can't be yourself and have people respect you. If you start letting those things run your world, like I'm assuming some of those things are running your world now. I certainly haven't gotten rid of all of those. That's where we get out of alignment with what we really want. Living the life that you really desire and having that fulfillment that you really want is not as hard as we make it out to be. We're often just not willing to see the simplicity of be yourself, follow your intuition, and that's it. But we've designed our lives to take us on this roller coaster, right? Of being conditioned, of learning that we're wrong or we're bad or there's bad things about us or that people won't like us or that we should be afraid of expressing ourselves. We build that into our lives so that when we come to this place right now where we can give ourselves permission to overcome that, wow, does that feel good? Wow, is that amazing that we went through all that, but now we know the truth that we are the ones that can decide what happens in our outer world. We can embrace ourselves fully, and only by doing that can we have what we really want. I did not know that I could create a life for myself where all I got to do during the day is stuff that I love. I didn't know that until I did it. I was assuming that I could when I was little. I knew somehow, someday, I'd work for myself, but I didn't have the knowing in me until I actually made it happen. And so I can understand if you are feeling like it's still kind of impossible to create the fulfillment and work that you want. But I promise you, by doing it, you'll experience it. So, you know, one thing I really recommend doing with intuitive drawing is asking for the first step to accomplishing something. In the Intuitive Art Academy Club, we always do a first step because it's great. Like, this is my inner truth. That's fantastic. But what do I do with it? I know that in order to really feel fulfilled, I need to put this in my outer world. But how, right? Like, what is the tangible step to take? So for homework, what I would love for you guys to do is to draw that. Like, what is my first step to putting more of my inner truth in my outer world? So just write that down for yourselves and do that after. And then go on Facebook, post it up for me. I'd love to see it. You can tag me if we're friends. You can look me up and friend me if we're not friends, or you can put it on the Rachel Archelaus business page if you are if you like that, as in Facebook speak. I really would love to see them. Whatever your first step is, even if you don't want to post your drawing, just type it out and then tag me and I'll take a look at it. I'd love to know, because only in making it happen will any of this really make a difference. So I love giving homework too. I love teaching. That's one of my big things to being fulfilled. So maybe that's what the blue is here. It's me teaching classes. All right. So I feel like I was going to tell you something, and then I, of course, went on a little tangent because I love those. I love just channeling all this stuff in the moment. I have some notes here. I hope you guys all know how to get in touch with your truth, right? Like, you're all intuitive, but I know sometimes it can be easy to dismiss what your intuition is telling you. And so I'd love to go through the yes or no technique with you now so that you can further anchor that in. And so even if you are completely psychic and can, talk to your guides and your higher self, do this with me anyway, just because it's often really helpful, and it's nice to feel things in your body and not just to have it all in the upper chakras. So the yes or no technique is just simple. I've seen a lot of other people use it in different forms and calling it different things. Like Access Consciousness has a form of this where you can feel like something's lighter or heavier. But I like to really activate the heart center, because I feel like it's a good place to come from, and it's a good place to filter all of your information through, because your heart is really the center of everything now. So what this is going to allow you to do is have a conversation with your higher self based on yes or no questions. So, you're thinking about taking a new job. You're thinking about asking your boss for a raise. You're thinking about starting your own business. You're thinking about having coaching clients or teaching a class. You can ask your higher self if this is the most beneficial thing for you to do at this time. That's how I always phrase these questions. So if I'm thinking about teaching a new class, I'll say, higher self, is this the most beneficial thing for me to do at this time? And I'll wait for a yes or a no. And I'll teach you how to get that information in a second. So I hope that makes sense. It's yes or no questions, and you're getting, is this the right step for me to do right now? Because sometimes we're just a little premature with things. So you can ask the same question in a month or a week if it's still relevant, and get a different answer because you waited long enough for everything in the universe to line up to meet you. Okay. So again, just take a deep breath, get centered. It's okay if you're still a little wound up. I'm a little wound up too. And I want you to think about a really amazing date or memory or vacation. So amazing. The best hug you ever had, or your favorite pet. So much so that you have that feeling in your chest. I want you to breathe the memory, breathe that feeling of love into your body until you feel something in your chest. So you're imagining you're on the beach, the sun's hitting you, you can smell the salt in the air. Or if you're imagining the best hug you ever got, you can smell the person's hair, You can feel their skin. Activate your body and feel that warmth and openness and tingly sometimes in your chest. That is a yes. So that is the feeling, and it might be a little more subtle when you ask, but that is the yes feeling that your higher self is going to give you. Now, just for a second, remember something you'd never want to experience again. So, an illness, bad news, a fight. And now just see what the difference is in your chest. What happened? And when you're done imagining that, you can send it away. But just notice what happens, right? It collapsed. You felt a density there. It's heavier. That's a no feeling. And again, when you ask your higher self that question, it will be a little more subtle than that. But when you ask the question, it'll also be almost instant, the answer. And sometimes the answer will come before you're done asking the question because it's so fast, right? Your higher self knows what you're going to say because it's part of you. So I want you to ask yourself something right now. Higher self, and you can do this in your mind, you don't have to say it out loud, but higher self, is it beneficial for me at this time to add more of my inner truth to my outer life? And if you get an answer, let me know what it is in the chat. I'm really curious. And if you're having trouble, just relax. Remember that it might come before you're even done asking the question, and just do it again in your head. All right, so Sandy says she got a very clear yes. Kate got a tingly yes. Mary, well, of course. Karen, yes. And before she was done with the question. So yeah, it's that simple. I could get so gushy emotional on you describing you because you are seriously like a superstar, rock star, superhero. You have everything you could possibly ever need to have what you're desiring. And to get there is sometimes a tricky way. Like I was just reading Basil's comments. So I happen to know her. She is amazingly talented, really specific too. Like she has a very specialized training. And you guys, a lot of the training that you have comes from lives and lives between lives and lives on other star systems that you're not even aware of. So like you're born with this stuff. It's not like you have to go learn it somewhere. You have this innate genius in you. And even if you can't back it up with like proper education or schooling, it's still there and you can feel it. Like you're badass. So anyway, she says that a part of her judges herself as negative, and her sheet, her inner truth drawing says that it showed her a sadness and feeling trapped. And so part of her inner truth was that sadness and being trapped. To get yourself to a point where you can accept that, like, so her inner truth, she brought that with her. She brought that feeling of sadness and being trapped. And yes, we would all say that that doesn't feel like fun, but we can neutralize the feelings that go along with it. And that's where she's probably being asked to go, to deep dive into those feelings, to neutralize them, to feel them till they can't be felt anymore. Like when you've been crying for a day and then all of a sudden there's nothing left and you feel normal, right? Have you ever experienced that where it's just like you just let yourself be in it and in it and in it, and then all of a sudden it's just gone? I would advise you do that. Let yourself be in it and in it and in it until it's just gone. And then you'll be helping others go through that process as well. So part of your specialty is that feeling. And so you brought it to earth in order to experience it one more time in the physical. And then when you're done with experiencing it, you get to help others get through that as well. Like for me, I brought in an experience of being in a really, really haunted house. I was psychic all my life, and it was all roses and, grandpa visits and angels. But then I moved into this one house where I was being, stalked by spirits, and they were making my mom throw up. And I mean, it was like Poltergeist movie or one of those scary movies to a T. Like you could make a movie about my life then, and I wouldn't even go see it because it would scare the crap out of me. But, waking up with bruises, I went through such a horrible time. And all I had to do was be in it. I had to feel it. I had to experience it, and I kind of knew that. Like my parents tried to get me to take Prozac, and I wouldn't. I would hide it because I knew I wasn't depressed. I was just going through a terrible time, and I had to feel it. And so what happened was, over the years of that going on, I managed to regulate my energy. I managed to learn to be myself and to anchor myself in this world so that I could deal with all the other stuff going on. And when I got to that point, all the bad stuff disappeared and all the good stuff started to come. It didn't happen overnight, but I brought that. That was my inner truth. My inner truth was that sad, abused, very scared, very emotional, very broken girl. And that was what I had to experience for a while. But now I help other people come out of that. I help other people find themselves and be themselves and anchor themselves in this world and offer their genius to the world. So I know it can look really harsh when you see it on a piece of paper, but everybody brings something like that with them. Most people do, because we are the ones who are like in the trenches helping everybody raise up and have their lives that they want. So we just have to do it first. We're the way showers. Wow, I can't believe it's been an hour. I want to say one more thing about living in your inner truth with your work. If you think about all of the real innovators who have ever lived, they hold so fast to their inner truth. They don't care what other people say. They don't care if the money runs out. They don't care if everybody thinks they have a bad idea, or they don't get funded, or they get laughed at, or things don't go their way. They keep persisting. And then, right, we are the ones who are normally the last to look at them and say, oh my God, thank God you didn't give up. So all innovation comes from people like you, intuitive, connected, creative people who just don't give up. You have no idea what your impact could be if you would just follow your own inner truth. We have no idea, right? When I was talking to Sonia Choquette a few weeks ago, she said that, she was answering a question that was great. The question came from Michael Alperstein of Lightworkers World. he had asked, do you have to be well known in order to really make an impact in the world? And she told this story about how she wasn't well known yet. She was at a book signing at Borders with 10 people. She had really just started out. I don't think she was even signed to Hay House yet. And she was giving a talk, and this guy kept coming in and out of the store, kind of looking and then leaving. He never sat down. And after a while, he just disappeared. And then she got a letter, I guess a couple weeks or a couple months later, saying that that guy, he himself, had gone into the store in order to get up the courage to kill himself. And because of her talk, he decided not to. Again, she wasn't well known yet. There were 10 people there, right? And she saved a man's life. And that was just the one person who wrote to her, right? I mean, I've gotten emails from people all over the world just saying how much I've helped them, how much I've helped them open up their own truth and through the intuitive art, and just it's amazing to receive that. And again, I'm not the most famous person in the world by far. So if I'm getting so much love mail just by being me and putting my own things out there, imagine what could be happening for you too if you could just add a little bit more of your own truth into your outer world, including into your work. The rewards go way beyond getting to make a living off of what you love to do. It goes into real emotional fulfillment, spiritual fulfillment, relationship. It never ends because you're showing up fully so you can receive fully. I hope that if you get anything from this discussion today, that when you can fully expose yourself, you can really receive into all of those corners and crevices. Right? It's really how much of the pie are you filled up and giving? That's how much you can receive. This game of life is all for your benefit. And it just happens to be part of the game that we get to help other people too. So it's quite extraordinary to live your own truth. And you know what? I'll give you one last example of being scared and then seeing what happens. So again, this year, I knew I wanted to add more art into my work because that's where I was being called to do. So I started the Intuitive Art Academy Club. I am going to open the doors to the Certified Intuitive Artist program in a couple weeks. And so I did that. I added that on, and it's been super amazing and a big leap and challenge for me in a good way. But I had a fear also of kind of adding more of my star family interest and connection and ET connection into my work because I was afraid that you guys would be really like freaked out about it because I still have that fear inside of me that people won't understand. So I've been keeping it really quiet. And in a couple of months ago, I did a workshop about channeling a message from your star family up in Sedona. And so in the Intuitive Art Academy Club, each month, all of the members vote on what the class is going to be. And so one of the suggestions I had was channel a message from your star family. And I just figured nobody would pick that because it was a little out there. But 90% of the votes came in for that. So this is just one amazing example of you being your truth, even if you're afraid of it, is what is going to get you the most in return. I was terrified. Well, I wasn't terrified of putting it out there, but I was like skeptical that would go over. And it happened to be the most popular thing. So again, this is your life. It's your truth. Live it. And that's where you'll get the most reward on all levels. So it's 5:02. I'd love some comments, questions, if you have any. I'm still here. I'm good to go. If you guys have anything you want to add to the conversation, I'd love to hear it because you're really the reason why I'm here. Yeah. So, Basil, I'm glad. She said, I appreciate the kind words and the guidance. In a way, I showed myself a block so I can release it. I got to get back over that page. Yes, and it's not a block even. It's not something to like release. It's something to embrace, like it's the block word often gets me because we don't want to alienate the parts of ourselves that are here to show us things. We're really loving them until they're neutralized and then bringing them into us. But I know what you mean. Sorry for being such a word snob. Missy Lynn says, being in our strong feelings can be so difficult. We often run from them. Very true. When we run toward them, this is where the healing takes place. Easy to say, more difficult to do. Yeah, it is difficult to run to our strong feelings. But, and I've really been like processing this more and more. If we make it a habit of running from fear or steering our eyes and our lives away from the bad feelings, that is what is creating our life. So bad feeling over here. So let's say I don't want to tell my boyfriend about something that happened to me because I'm afraid. I'm shutting off my truth in that direction. So over here, I don't want to talk about star families and my business. I'm shutting off my truth in that direction. After a while, you kind of get covered with all these blinders. You're not allowed to say this. You're not allowed to say that. And that fear bubble is what you get to live in. It may be more difficult to embrace the truth and express it. But say you do, like I faced my fear of talking about star families. I didn't have to shut it down at all. In fact, I was embraced. And so now I have this whole big opening here. So yeah, it definitely can be more difficult. It takes more courage, but the reward is huge because you're not shutting yourself down anymore. And you can then receive all of that extra energy and love. So Kate says, my drawing showed stagnation, blocking my creativity from my drive and motivation. I totally get that. Yeah, stagnation can be really huge. It's just because of what I was just talking about. We stop ourselves from expressing and then we get stuck. And it can often really be hard to get out of that stuckness because we suppressed our intuition and our creativity for so long that it's kind of hard to kickstart it again. So hopefully this will help you do that. And intuitive drawing can give you that first step. So hope everyone does their homework and lets me know on Facebook how that's going for you. I'd love to see it. Mary Ruth, poetry, really great counsel. Yes, poetry, fabulous artistic expression. When I still have my press, but I'm not currently publishing anything, but I published other people's poetry. I love that. It's such a beautiful art form. You can really say so much. Anna, bye. She says she has to put her kids to bed. Thank you so much. I really look forward to the next meeting. Yes, me too. So if you can't make it, that's fine. But on Friday at noon Pacific, we're going to meet again. We're going to talk about expression. So how to get out of that stagnation, how expression gets tied into, again, your money, all of your fulfillment. Let's see, I can give you some specific questions if you want to get a head start. What is most important about expression in a career? Aren't you just there to work, right? We get into that. How does it feel to be in harmony with your expression? How do you know if you are blocking your expression? What happens to the flow of money and happiness when expression is blocked or suppressed? So I'm going to answer those questions and I'm going to hear from you about how you feel about those questions. We'll do another drawing and we'll keep this going because, I'm again hoping to really stir your inside so that you can make a real transformation for yourself, or at least get that thought going that you can have everything you want in your work situation, all the freedom, all the money, everything you want is already there. I'm just helping you kind of uncover it. I had lunch with my cats today. It was really cute. I get to play with them all day. I just have I'm so grateful for the life I have. And I'll share it all. I'll share everything I know with you so that you can have that too. All right. I love all of you guys. Thank you so much for your comments. And yeah, I will see you on Friday. If not, then definitely watch the replay and catch up. Everything is going to be on this live page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this video down and I'll label it Inner Truth. And I'm just going to put all the new ones at the top. So the live ones will always be on top, and then I'll move them down so that all the people having to watch replays can just go to one page. There will be a new chat box for each one so that we can start fresh on that new topic. But you know what? Pretty easy stuff. Oh, so very nice of you, Mary. She said, I mean that your words are poetry. Well, thank you so much. I do love poetry very much. All right, guys. I am here for you. You allow me to do what I love, and I really appreciate that you're here, that we get to spend this live time together, and I cannot wait for the next one. If I could do this all day, I'd probably get a little tired, but I would love connecting with you. So until then, do your drawings, get your next step. I will post mine on Facebook as well, and take a look for it, and we can compare our next steps to adding inner truth to our outer life. All right, guys, lots of love. Bye-bye.